Module 4, and in this section, we're going to be talking about managing assets. So that means we're going to talk about what the media bin is, how to bring in content into your media bin, and how to organize and even update your content inside of the media bin. And then we'll get into the library and talk about what the library is, and even how you can save your own creations across projects using the library. And then we'll talk about getting assets directly from Camtasia. So right inside of Camtasia, we can go and we can look through a bunch of different assets that were built by the TechSmith team, and you can bring those right inside of Camtasia and customize them how you want. And you can do that either through Camtasia, directly inside of Camtasia, or you can actually go to their website and download it directly from their website. So I'm going to show you both of them and how to access those assets from both locations. And then once we have our assets pulled in, I'm going to talk to you about what the properties panel is. And this will come in handy, especially when we get into animation and adjusting content and everything, is we're going to be working with our properties panel. And then after that, we're going to be talking about importing other assets from different locations into Camtasia to use inside of your video as well. So we have a lot to cover, so let's go ahead and get started. Now that we have some recordings, these recordings are going to be stored inside of the media bin. We have talked a little bit about how to import and organize the media in the previous section, but let's dive into some more features in the media bin in this video. We have some recordings from our last section in this media bin. You can download the same files I'll be working with within this video, or you can use your own screen recordings. Recent versions of Camtasia introduce different tabs when you click on the Media tab. The first tab is the Media bin, where our screen recordings and any other media that we've imported into our project is collected. The second tab is the Assets tab, which will show you assets from the TechSmith asset library. Some of these assets are free, while others require a subscription. You can easily download and use these assets in any project. The last tab is the Library tab. The Library tab is a place to organize and store assets or media so you can easily use them in future projects. Camtasia provides some of these assets, but other items are reusable items that we've built ourselves. We will cover each section in depth, but they are all found within the Media tab on the left side. Let's return to the first tab and discuss other things we can do within the Media bin. If we have a lot of media in our media bin, we can easily change the view by clicking on the icon on the bottom right. Clicking on a new view will either make our media larger or smaller. If you have a lot of media, you can immediately change this to see more of your media in the media bin. You can easily add media to your timeline. If we want to take a piece of media, we can drag it to our timeline, or right-click the media and select Add to Timeline at Playhead. Now move your playhead to the desired insert location before choosing this option. Once your playhead is ready, right-click on the media again and select that option. Suppose we already have something on our timeline and we want to replace it with something else inside of the media bin. In that case, we can select the new media we want from the media bin. Click and drag it over the top of the media that we want to replace on the timeline until the green outline appears. Then select from the options provided. The options can include ripple replace, replace from the start, replace from the end, or replace with the same speed as the current clip. Ripple replace will move our content over to the right and create space for the entire duration of the new media. Replace from start will trim the new media at the start of the clip and fit the duration of the media that has been replaced. Replace from the end does the same thing, but starts from the end of the clip. Replace the clip speed adjusts the new clip to the same speed by speeding up the media or slowing it down. If you want to preview an item from your media bin before adding it to your timeline, go to the item in your media bin and right-click on the item. Then go down to Preview, which will pull up a large preview window, so you can see your clip better before you add it to the timeline. Suppose you make a change to a piece of media that is in your video. Maybe you update your logo or choose a better photo to use. In that case, you can easily update the media in your video by right-clicking on the media and selecting Update Media. Navigate to the new media and choose Open. Selecting that will now update the media in both your media bin and your timeline if it's being used. If a piece of media is no longer needed, you can reduce the file size of your project by removing the media from the media bin. Right-click and select Delete. That will remove the media from the media bin and project files. Deleting the files is permanent, so ensure you only do this when you are sure a file is no longer needed. You can also rename files in your media bin, which helps you identify media easier. The renaming comes in handy, especially with screen recordings which are auto-named. At the moment, this can only be done on a Mac. Go in your media files on a Mac, right-click, and then select Rename. This feature will be coming to the Windows version in a future release. You can do these different things with the media bin to help you better organize and work with your media while creating your videos. Let's jump to the Library tab in the following video, and then we will cover the assets in a future video. The library allows us to save templates, media, and custom assets we want accessible across projects. You can add it inside of your library and then easily add it to new projects by dragging it onto your latest project timeline. It can also be used to access Camtasia built assets. Let's learn about how the library works in this video. To access the library, go into the Media tab and then select the third tab. If you hover over it, it will come up with the label Library. You will have access to several different types of libraries. The main one we want to focus on is the default library. Everyone will have a default library that can be used to store their assets and clips. To view other libraries, select the drop-down box. Here you can access your default library and any others that you have created. This allows you to organize your reusable content better. Select a library from the drop-down to view the clips, images, or grouped items you've stored. You can also add these across any project you create. Using the search bar, you can also search for specific items if your library gets pretty large. Let's go back to the drop-down. The default library is like our primary bucket of content. We can also create new libraries by clicking on Create New Library. When we select this option, it will give us the chance to name this library. You could create libraries for specific items like lower thirds, intros, stock images, or more. Giving it a label will help you keep your items better organized. Let's give this one a name of Intros. You will see that it adds a blank bin for us to add content. You can add content by clicking on Import Media and finding the assets we want in this library, or we can add things as we go. I'm going to click on Cancel for now. Let's go back to our default library. We can add something to our library in a couple different ways. If we want something added to our library like a group or a clip, select the media and then right-click on that media or group and select Add to Library. It will allow you to rename the media before it gets added to the library, which will help you remember what the clip is about in future projects. Select the drop-down box to determine where the clip will go. Deciding how you want to organize your media before adding clips is good. Let's go ahead and add this to our default library. Next, you can choose between using the canvas size or just the visible size, which is the original dimensions of the media. We will dive into the canvas in the next section. For now, let's go ahead and stick with the canvas size and click OK. Now, make sure you navigate back to your library and you can see the clip that was just added. You can also add clips to your library from the media bin. Let's go to the media bin and right-click over one of our media bin items. Notice that the option to add to library is right there. Now let's go back to our library. Building your library may take time. I suggest that anytime you create something in a project that you think could be reusable, add it to the library. To share a library you've created with another team, go to the drop-down box and then select Manage Library. This menu gives you the option to rename your library, delete it if you no longer need it, and finally, export or import libraries. Let's export this library by clicking on Export Library. I'm going to export this to my desktop. You can rename it or leave it as is and click Save. Let's minimize Camtasia. And you can see that it has created a zipped file for us. We can send this zip to anyone on our team so they can access the same assets as we do. your team must go into their Camtasia instance to import the library. They can go into the library, manage the library, and then click on Import Zipped Library. Now they find the zip file, select it, and hit Open. It will import all the assets into their library. Now they can use that same media in all of their projects. We will create animated titles and lower thirds as we go along in this course. If you want to keep those for any of your projects, you could create a library and store those inside of that library. One more thing that I want to call out. Let's select the drop-down box. Notice that there is a Camtasia 2023 or any other year library when you select the drop-down box. These are filled with media files and additional animations created by the Camtasia team. You can drag and drop these into your project to enhance and improve your videos. You will also see other Camtasia built assets in the Assets panel. Let's go ahead and cover that next. The library allows us to save and organize our assets, but the Assets tab will enable us to download images, videos, and other types of media directly from the Camtasia Asset Store. Instead of spending hours looking for assets to use in your video, you can search and download them right inside of Camtasia. Now, some assets do require a Camtasia Asset subscription. It is an extra cost, but it's well worth it. Even if you do not subscribe, you can use plenty of free assets right out of the box. To get to this section, go to the Media tab, and then to the second tab labeled Assets. On this tab, you can scroll through all of the various assets. There are many, so if you want something specific, use the search bar. I will search for an intro by typing in intro. You can all see the various types of titles here. If they're part of the paid version, you'll see this premium label on the top left of the asset. If you do not see a premium label, then the asset is free to use. To preview the asset, right-click and select Preview. Selecting Preview will open a window, allowing you to see how this intro will play out. To add an asset to your timeline, you can click and drag the asset to the timeline, or you can right-click again and select Add to Timeline at Playhead. Downloading the asset from the web may take a few minutes. You may see a temporary screen appear on the canvas while it is downloading, and the asset will populate on your timeline. Most of the customizable assets are groups. We have yet to learn about groups, but they are a way to combine different items on your timeline. To open the group, click on the plus icon. Within the group, you can see all the text, animations, and assets used to create the animated intro. You will notice the text within the group along the annotations, and motion backgrounds that you can customize and change. I'm going to edit this text quickly. Select the text on the canvas and then type in your new text. Keep in mind that some assets you can edit the text from the Properties panel, and some you may have to open up the group, so just keep that in mind. Once we finish editing our asset, we can exit the group by clicking on the X button within the Group tab. We're going to learn more about groups in an upcoming section. Once we are back on our main timeline, let's drag our playhead to the beginning of the timeline. Now we have a nice animated intro without having to edit it ourselves. We will learn how to create animated intros, but the Asset Store allows us to leverage already made animations, saving us a lot of time. If we return to the Asset Store, we can fine-tune our search for assets by clicking on the magnifying glass. We can filter to search customizable assets, videos, audio files, and photos, and filter out only free assets. That way we don't have to scroll through a ton of premium assets. The Asset tab can save you time when you're editing your videos by giving you quality stock content or customizable templates that can be used right within Camtasia. We will dive more into how to customize templates once we get into annotations and editing. In the next video, let's cover working with the same Asset Store from the website. Having access to royalty-free assets for Camtasia right inside of Camtasia makes it quick and easy. Still, you can access the same library from any web browser. So I will cover how to work with the web version in this video. To get to the asset store, go to library.techsmith.com. Here you can choose if you want the assets for Camtasia or Snagit. We're going to select the assets for Camtasia option. Ensure you log into the same login you use for Camtasia. That will enable you to send assets right to Camtasia. We can search for specific assets by typing in what we want, as we did right inside of Camtasia. Let's go ahead and type in intro and hit enter. This search will pull up the same options as before, but better separates them out into various sections. You can see the customizable section, the videos section, the images section, and the audio section. Once you find the asset you like, click on the asset. Clicking on the assets opens a preview and gives you more details. We then have the option to download the assets, and then we'll need to import it right into Camtasia. Or we can select Send to Camtasia. When you click on Send to Camtasia, it will ask you if you want to open up Camtasia. Select that option. That will open up Camtasia and add your asset to the media bin. Now you can use it within your project. Let's go back to the website. Let's close out this window and open up an image. When you select an image, it will still have the option to send to Camtasia, but it also has various sizes you can download with the image. Selecting on one of those options will download the image, and you can use it in Camtasia or other tools like Snagit or PowerPoint. You can also select the arrows on the right or left to navigate through various images. If we come back and search for music, you can filter music by mood or genre. You can view that it has been downloaded in the past. This view could be helpful, especially if you liked an asset that you used in a previous project and need help remembering what it was called. Click the downloads icon on the top right to view your previous downloads. This view will show you all of your downloads, whether downloaded right inside of Camtasia or from the website. You can pull it back up and download it again. You may find it easier to just search for assets right inside of Camtasia, or you may like how the search is handled on the website more. Either way works, but I wanted to make sure that you are aware of both options. In the next video, we'll talk about the Properties panel. In this section, we have been working with our media files. We have created screen and camera recordings, used the library, asset store, and more. An important thing when working with the media is adjusting the media. To change the media, you use the Properties panel. The Properties panel may look blank until something is selected on the timeline. Every piece of media you use to build your videos has properties. When I select an item on the timeline, I see various tabs within the Properties panel. I can see video, audio, and cursor properties for screen and camera recordings. These properties allow us to change the look and style of the media. I can see how I can adjust the scale, opacity, rotation, width, height, and even skew within the video properties. For now, let's go into the audio section. Within the audio section, I can see how I can adjust the gain, change the audio to mono, or even auto-normalize the audio. We'll talk about all these options down the road. Now let's go into the cursor section. One of the most significant benefits of using Camtasia is thoroughly editing the cursor even after the recording. Editing the cursor in position after we record allows us to clean up how the cursor moves, fixes mistakes if it moves in the wrong direction, or even smooth out movements across clips. You can do a lot here, so we'll return back to this. Adjusting the properties allows us to get the desired effect and look. We can make our screen recording larger or smaller, scale it up, and then scale it back down to zoom in and out, move it around, and even change the opacity to get various effects. Notice that next to every property is either a text field or a dial or a slider. Adjusting these allows us to change the properties to get the various effects. We will be using properties a lot throughout this course. When we get into animations, we will use properties even more. We animate properties from one point in the timeline to another point in the timeline. So it's essential to know where your properties are and how to access them and even change them. We will then dive into adding other properties down the road, but the properties panel will always be where you change and adjust your media to get precisely what you want in your video. Let's go ahead and cover one more thing in this section. In the next video, we'll discuss importing assets, captions, and projects into Camtasia. There are various ways to import content into Camtasia, but let's cover importing captions, other Camtasia, and zipped projects in this video. Let's see what we can import. To do this, go to File and then down to Import. The menu that appears will give us various options. We've already discussed importing media. We can also import captions into our screen recording. Let's go ahead and import some right now. We can then work with the captions made in a different project or other tool within Camtasia. We will dive more into captions later. The next file tab we can import is a zipped project. Within any project, you can import another project. Let's first export our project as a zipped project. Go to File and then down to Export. Let's select Zipped Project. Zipping our project is excellent when we need to package up all of our assets and store them for later use or share them with others editing inside of Camtasia. Let's save our project on the desktop. Now let's start a new project. Close out our current project and pull up a blank project. Let's save our new project and add an annotation and see what happens when we already have work within this project before we bring in our zipped file. Now let's find the zip project we want to import and then import the zipped file. We will need to choose a location where the files will be extracted. Since my other project is saved on my desktop already, let's create a new folder and see what happens. Clicking on the folder, I'm going to create a new folder on my desktop, calling it New Location. Once we are ready, click on Import. You will notice something. It removed the assets and annotation I had before, and it just loaded in the previous project. I wanted to point this out so you did not spend a lot of time on a new project and thinking that you can insert files into another project without having something messed up. You can copy and paste from projects, but importing a zipped file loads in the previous project. It will create a new copy of the project, so keep that in mind. The benefit of zipped projects is that we keep all of our files together. If we go into the new folder, we can see the zipped file is now unzipped and placed inside of that new folder with all of the assets intact. It is good practice to zip up your files at the end of your project and store them for future use by you or others that may edit your project in the future. There's another way to save your project and share it. Let's go back into File and then down to Export. You can see that you can export out a package. While the zipped folder allows us to share all the files regarding this project specifically, a Camtasia package will enable us to share all of the templates, themes, libraries, and shortcuts that I've used in one package without having to export them all separately. So it's not tied to any specific project, just the assets that we have built. Once the window appears, you can go through all the templates that you have created and have installed and select the ones you want to share. You can then go through the themes and choose the custom ones. I'm also going to go into the libraries and do the same thing. Once I have selected everything I want to include as part of this shareable package, I'm going to go ahead and click on Export. Find the location you want to save it as and click on Save. Now you can send this file to anyone on your team, and they will have the same assets you have across all libraries, templates, and themes. Once you share the zip file, the recipient must double-click on the file or go into File, Import, and then select the package. Selecting this will install all the assets and open up a new project. And then that's it. They can get rid of the zip file and find all of the assets in the same location where you see the assets within Camtasia. Camtasia makes sharing and storing reusable files across projects and teammates easy. Let's go ahead and wrap up what we've learned about in this section and then move on to the next section. All right, this section was all about managing assets. So we talked about the media bin, being able to filter out and find your content inside of the media bin and organize that a little bit better. We talked about being able to create a library and even having assets saved across projects and even finding content in the library that you can use. We also talked about assets in Camtasia, where we can actually find free and paid assets right inside of the Camtasia tab and being able to download those and use those inside of Camtasia. We also went into the store, and if you like being able to filter out through the website and find content through the website, how easy it is to just even send those right to Camtasia. Then we talked about the properties panel and seeing where we could adjust different properties about assets or text or other things that we may be using. We're going to dive more into that, especially with the animation. So we're going to come back to that. And then finally, we talked about importing your content into Camtasia. And this could be images from other locations, videos that you've recorded in different locations as well, and how to bring that into your media bin. So we've covered a lot, but now we're ready to dive in and start working with the canvas and explore the different things that we can do with the canvas. So let's go ahead and do that next.